So where does Dubai stand in all of this? What is really happening in the data center landscape of Dubai?
So I think when we talk about Dubai, people would think we're talking about huge buildings of data centers filled with servers and cooling, but that is not how it is. I think it's a game of chess that you're playing underline where you're looking into regulating cable landing points. So your cable landing stations have been regulated, the rights for landing them, as well as to the point where sand filtration systems are completely different dynamics for a desert sort of environment here, which nowhere in the world has those engineering and architecture needs that different for a city like Dubai. So Dubai is connected through cable landing stations to Europe. It's connected to Africa, Asia, and that is the geographical or strategic positioning of Dubai as a market, which facilitates or drives the key growth for the region. Security-wise, it was at par, or rather the best. I can walk the streets at 3 a.m. Without even thinking twice.
Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Live, Work and Play in Dubai podcast for Economic Times. My name is Amandeep, and I'm here to uncover some of the industries that are shaping Dubai's future. From innovation and finance to sustainability and culture, it is all happening right here in Dubai. So join us as we uncover insights from industry leaders, from business investors and visionaries that are driving Dubai's growth. On today's episode, I'm joined by Ms. Priyanka Nagpal of JLL. She is the director and lead for data center consulting for the Middle East and Africa region. Welcome to the show, Priyanka.
Thank you very much, Amandeep.
So before this show started, I was under the impression that Priyanka takes care of Middle East and North Africa, but then now that she has mentioned that it's actually the whole of Africa, I realize that your hands are quite full. Yeah. And this is a great time to be having a conversation about data centers and digital infrastructure because not just in the GCC region, but I feel across the world, every other day we're hearing some sort of updates on development of data center landscape, of digital infrastructure landscape. And for a city like Dubai that kind of prides itself on its spirit for innovation and its drive for digital transformation, I think we're in a very crucial place to really understand what all of this translates into for this part of the world. But before we get into all of that, I am so very curious to learn about your journey and how you have ended up in this position of leading the whole of Middle East and Africa. So Priyanka, over to you.
So Amandeep, I started my career as an electronics engineer, worked in software, never really thought that real estate would be something that would happen. Post doing my master's in business administration, largely in general management, that is how my journey of real estate started. So been in real estate for over 12.5 years plus now. Data centers just naturally happened in real estate because when I started my career with JLL around 6.5 years back in 2019, that was the first time data centers happened to be. I was based out of India, Mumbai, taking the role of data centers there. And broadly, that was the first time I even heard the word data centers because the region was growing rapidly for this. But it was a very natural blend for me. Being from an electronics engineer by background, I think data centers require quite a lot of technical skills, and understanding that along with my real estate knowledge helped me. So it was something like being in the right place at the right time when the industry was booming, and I'm just thankful that I was under the right guidance and mentorships in my growth career.
That's a wonderful story. And, you know, when it started off with the electronics engineering, that sounds like, and this may be a broad statement to make, but we come from similar Asian, Indian backgrounds. Yes. So I'm sure I can say for a majority of us, you know, this is sort of like an Indian parent's dream. So well done on achieving that. And now your success in the region. So your career started with JLL. And, you know, when we think of JLL as a company, we think of real estate services. And when we think about data centers, we think about, you know, systems. We think about companies like Amazon or Microsoft. We think about cooling systems. We think about servers. But to the average person, for example, the connection between real estate and data centers just doesn't seem to click in a very natural way. So tell us about what the significance of, I mean, of course, you know, you need massive spaces for data centers, but what that sort of intersection looks like in your role for JLL, you know, how significant significant this is,
Sure.
the data center advisory part of it.
So I'll just again take a step back here on how real estate blends perfectly with data centers and what all we do at JLL, where we have a team of over 200 plus experts across globally, which look into the data center specialist or their data center specialist roles for JLL. I think we start right at the beginning stage of consulting, where we do market entry strategies, feasibilities, financial feasibilities, and analysis for data centers for players who are looking at entering into new market or for expansions, as well as players who are already existing and they are looking at exploring either outside markets or predominantly within markets. Apart from that, we have a capital markets team which looks at JVs, partnership, acquisitions, site acquisitions, because like you rightly mentioned, space requirements for data centers are large, and that's where that forte or that service comes in. Apart from that, we have a full-fledged leasing team, which supports us with co-location leasing advisory as well. So we facilitate rack sales for data center operators for our occupier clients, because we have a large base of occupier clients, which our leasing team looks for office spaces for them. So that again is something that we look into. Apart from this, we have a full-fledged PNDS team, which looks after the projects and delivery cycle, as well as a facility management team, which look into operating of data centers. So it's like the holistic life cycle of inception to the end, that is operations of data center, that we look at.
So, our sort of traditional understanding of the real estate sector or even real estate companies kind of just is moot at this stage when we think about its intersection with data centers. And very interesting work. I feel like if we were to get into the depths of each aspect of data centers that JLL looks at and that you specialize in, we were going to need an entire separate episode length. I'm going to leave that aside. But what I do want to understand, from the perspective of what our listeners would like to know as well, is how does Dubai fit into this? And I will give you also a bit of background as to what I'm thinking. Is in the sense, in the past couple of weeks alone, we've heard Stargate's AI campus is going to have this massive amount of capacity, or Humane is making these bold bets on architecture related to data centers and digital infrastructure. So where does Dubai stand in all of this? What is really happening in the data center landscape of Dubai?
Sure. So I think when we talk about Dubai, people would think we're talking about huge buildings of data centers filled with servers and cooling, but that is not how it is. I think it's a game of chess that you're playing underline, where you're looking into regulating cable landing points. So your cable landing stations have been regulated, the rights for landing them, as well as to the point where sand filtration systems are completely different dynamics for a desert sort of environment here, which nowhere in the world has those engineering and architecture needs that different for a city like Dubai. So when you talk about data centers and real estate in Dubai, it is definitely different from other Asian markets or European markets, which might not face the same situations, the same opportunities or the same challenges. So every region whole is different, and I think Dubai specifically is also different when it comes to be centrally connected. So Dubai is connected through cable landing stations to Europe. It's connected to Africa. It's connected to Asia. So we are centrally connected, and that is a geographical or strategic positioning of Dubai as a market, which facilitates or drives the key growth for the region.
Dubai as a hub for everything really is what is the reality today. So how does that translate into the digital infrastructure space, or more specifically in the data center space? We've seen that Dubai and Abu Dhabi have the highest number of data centers in the region. Of course, given that so many people and so many businesses are moving into Dubai, the need for data centers is only going to increase. So is Dubai in a position to become a hub for data centers, where the sort of innovation can happen, the sort of setting up of data centers can happen?
So in fact, Amandeep, I'll like to touch base here about the AI initiatives that you mentioned, like Stargate is is the largest government-led AI initiative by UAE, which is predominantly about 1.1 gigawatt plus or 1 gigawatt plus of campus, which is going to be a government-led in a very strategic synergy or a strategic partnership between US and UAE. Apart from that, you did mention Humane as well, which is another gigawatt plus campus in KSA in Riyadh, which is again a government-led AI initiative. So definitely, I think when you look at Dubai, there are three critical factors of why it is important. The very first one is the geographic and the geopolitical angle. Now, Dubai has been surrounded by different countries facing different data sovereignty laws.
Yeah.
And it is centrally connected and it manages these differences very well, or these data sovereignty laws across neighboring countries really well. I think that's the first aspect to look at it. The second aspect of looking at it is Dubai has the first movers advantage. Dubai, I would say UAE as a whole has a first movers advantage because Abu Dhabi is also a growth market. And this is backed by government-led initiatives. So we would, I think, be touching base on, sovereign wealth funds and, how they have played an important role. But largely government-led efforts in promoting this. So it's not just a market-driven demand, and it is mainly dependent on how the region is driving it, and that is something which is predominantly seen in Dubai. And the third and the most important aspect is also looking at future-proofing your data centers. I think. The technology now, suddenly when we talk about AI data centers, they are very different from traditional data centers where we're talking about rack densities of, I think we were talking about 6 kVA to 18 kVA. And now suddenly we talk about high rack densities or high compute, which is 250 kVA upwards. And this changes the entire design architecture of a data center where you have hybrid cooling, you have liquid cooling integration and everything coming in. So along with this comes energy conservation because carbon neutrality is a big challenge, and all the global players, the international operators, your hyperscalers who are looking at it have mandates, and UAE has specific AI strategy in place. You have Saudi Vision 2030, and all this is being supported. So I'll give you an example of MBR. That is your solar park, the Mohammed bin Rashid solar park in Dubai. This is also a step further to facilitating or looking at green data centers or renewable data centers. So I think these three aspects are really being looked at, very critical aspects which are driving the growth in Dubai as a market.
So you've mentioned a few words that I'm sure, words that we all hear, but not exactly words that we're 100% clear on what they mean. So you mentioned hyperscalers. Previously you mentioned co-location data centers. We've got AI data centers with a completely different architecture. And like I said, the technological significance of all of this requires an entirely different episode. So without getting into too many details, just because I would love to touch upon the opportunities that are available for investors. In your view, for Dubai, which of these, out of edge data centers, hyperscalers, co-location, AI data centers, which of these offers the most profitable opportunity for anyone looking to enter this market?
I think largely when we look at this growth story, let's compare India with Dubai and how is it strategically important to look at Dubai from point of view of investments for data centers. I think the key growth opportunity here is also edge computing or edge data centers. I think we are looking at a large number of inquiries or largely interest in partnerships for edge compute. That is one growth market that's driving the demand. Apart from that, there is shared research that is being done by both countries on renewable sources of energy and renewable power, because these are huge power guzzlers, and how do you create sustainable future? So that is another important aspect. And there are many investment opportunities in these ancillary infrastructure as well for data center support. So I think predominantly along with AI, along with hyperscale, along with traditional data center, these aspects of cooling infrastructure, hybrid cooling infrastructure, integrating liquid cooling, renewables, and edge compute are also some aspects that are very important to be looked at from point of view of investment diversification.
We've touched upon these opportunities for investment. We hear about these opportunities of investment as well. But there is one thing that we also see is that it's usually the larger names that are associated with these investments. So when we think about hyperscalers, for example, Amazon Web Services, Microsoft, co-location, again, is the same deal. We've seen Do and Etisalat coming up with their data centers. So it seems like, partnerships with sovereign wealth funds, as we mentioned earlier, having links with these big names, even when it comes to sovereign cloud, for example, Qatar recently deploying Oracle for sovereign cloud solutions. It seems like it's hugely dominated by these bigger names. So when we know that there are opportunities available in this sector, how do we create this awareness around opportunities for smaller private companies that wish to tap into this? So, when it comes to ancillary services, for example, are there any specifics that you're seeing that are really growing for especially, Indian startups?
I think, Amandeep, it's a very interesting question. And I think what I see growing per se is the dynamics that I spoke about, that the designs for data centers are completely changing.
Yeah.
Because these designs are changing, I think there's a lot of cooling requirement that the data center needs, and these cooling demands and needs are also changing. So we do see quite a lot of activity in this sort of ancillary, infrastructure investment, where you're looking at different cooling techniques or partnerships around it. I think many startups or many established companies as well are coming up with good solutioning for this, and I think that is predominantly one aspect which is to be looked at. There are other aspects also, Amandeep, that we spoke on, which were largely on lines of the desert environment, which is predominantly different in Dubai compared to other regions or other Asian markets. If you see, when I talk about sand, I'm not talking about aesthetics. It is more on lands of the sand filtrations or the air filtration systems that go into the data centers, which are different demands, because HVAC require large space requirements with this design coming in. So I think this is also one area to be looked at, because you cannot be depending on traditional air-cooled system only. I think that is also another angle to be looking at when you talk about startups.
So interesting. We've got these opportunities. We've just got to create some very earth-shattering solutions to this very unique region. So Priyanka, you've worked across a wide diversity of geographies. You've looked at the Asian market, you've looked at the Indian market, now you've looked at Middle East and Africa. Tell me, what stands out, aside from the sort of geographic complications of this market, in terms of just the investor environment, for example? Is there anything that stands out in Dubai to you when you compare it to the rest of the region?
I think predominantly, if you talk about Asian markets, you talk about Singapore, Australia, these are all developed markets for data centers. Even your cables are, which go into the data centers are actually name tagged. So you know exactly what is the single point of failure and all. When you look at Dubai specifically, I think it is still a growth market. It's a developing market.
Yeah.
But the most crucial part is it is a government-led and coordinated growth market. So you have a lot of opportunities when you have government support. Because like I mentioned earlier, it's not just a market-driven demand. It is the regional demand.
Yeah.
And you have your regional data sovereignty, where your local company or your local data needs to be stored within the jurisdiction. I think largely these are some specifics that make it a very interesting market. Another aspect is you can cater to the entire GCC from Dubai. So it's not just you're talking about Dubai, you're talking about the neighboring countries also, how they could be catered to through from Dubai.
We've always talked about, with a number of other guests as well, we always talk about how Dubai is a gateway to the rest of the region, not just the rest of the region, but also, connecting other Central Asian markets.
Sure, it's
for
like
example.
a digital bridge that you're looking about, digital bridge that would be connecting all the other neighboring countries.
Exactly. So when we talk about neighboring countries, do you see Dubai playing a significant role when it comes to the development of Africa?
I think yes, because there are the cable landing
Yeah.
station connectivity to Africa. So largely, it is important and instrumental for connecting or for driving the growth to the other markets as well. Though every market has its own speciality or its own niche that has been carved out. Like Dubai has its own niche of enterprise, government-led, and now AI with
Yeah.
Stargate and all. You have other markets like Oman, which is largely enterprise telco play. Then you have Bahrain, which is going to be the first AWS cloud region. In Africa also you have Kenya, which is known for geothermal or other energy exploration needs. Then you have Nigeria, which is a separate market. South Africa is an established market. So I think here it's not about one market over the other. It's every market carving their own niche and specializing in that, and together building that digital bridge that we're talking about.
Final question about the work aspect of live, work, and play. You briefly mentioned, regulation for sovereign cloud, and in the past couple of weeks, we've seen a lot happening in sovereign cloud because, of course, when we have so much data, we want to have sovereignty over it. So, do you see, firstly, any changes happening in regulation for sovereign cloud, and secondly, do you feel like that's going to have an impact on how data centers are established and how opportunities open up for startups? Do you think it may slow things down, or do you think it may make things go even more rapidly?
I think data sovereignty is something that's always talked about, and with data centers, I think because information is key, and who owns this information. I think largely that's where regulations come into play. And when you look at Asian markets and all, you already have data center specific regulations. Dubai specifically as a market, we do not have any data center regulation in place. It is still in draft where we are incubating that entire, where we follow the European standards, which is the global standards of data center policies for drafting it. So for Dubai, if you see the data sovereignty laws for Dubai are different from data sovereignty laws for Abu Dhabi within UAE itself. So streamlining these data center norms or data center policy is going to be a very critical aspect to be looked at. And I think Dubai is predominantly very, very growth driven in this, because it's just a perfect blend of international play for global operators who are looking at entry, as well as a sovereign blend for government-led activities and government initiatives. So I think it's that match of both which is just in the right blend in Dubai when you're looking at it as a market.
Okay, that's wonderful, I'm sure, for companies to hear as they look to navigate this market. So like I said, this was the work part of the Live, Work and Play podcast. So I am also now very curious, because I have not made a secret out of this. I am hugely inspired by you. Based on previous conversations as well, I feel like it is so important to have more and more female leaders, especially when it comes to technology. This has been globally traditionally dominated by men, and so to me, to see someone who's leading Middle East and Africa in data centers as a female is just it's great, and it's very inspiring. So I want to understand from you what your experience has been like in this market, or even generally in other markets as well, having to rise to this position of leadership. Has the world been supportive to Priyanka?
Amandeep, I think I have been very fortunate because I believe in the region also. There was a lot of acceptability. I think the region, for me personally, what worked is I think competence gets acknowledged very well in the region. When that is the key driving factor, I think the gender suddenly does not become a barrier, because you being judged purely on your competence. I think what I would like to say, tell the audience is largely it's be prepared. I think be transparent and be open to learning. I think these three things are what really helped me grow in my career, and I find it really very friendly with a lot of government led initiatives also by in the data center space for women, largely around STEM education, as well as you see the technical skills growing. You have women representation on boards also. So this is largely going to be gender neutral, by driven by competence, I think.
That's great to hear. And moving into the play aspect of things, so for yourself, you haven't been in Dubai for a very long time, as I understand.
Yeah.
So you've had your life established elsewhere in India, and now you've had to make this change. So what has that experience been like? Has Dubai been welcoming for you?
So I think, Amandeep, for me, I come from Mumbai, born and brought up there.
Yeah.
So Dubai was very easy to settle in, trust me. I think all my life I've been in Mumbai, and Dubai happened just around a little short of 2 years back.
Yeah.
But it was very easy for me to settle in this change, because it was a role change, it was a region change, it was quite a lot. But I think security-wise, it was at par, rather the best. I can walk the streets at 3 a.m. Without even thinking twice. I think apart from that, infrastructure-wise, it was very, very convenient. These two were the key or crucial aspects which helped me settle in really quick. I think apart from that, what I love is the the innovative part of it and the cross-cultural mix. So basically, you would be having your breakfast with maybe a Saudi sovereign fund. You'll be having your lunch with, be it a startup in Silicon Valley, and you'll be dining with the European enterprise. So it's like you could do all that in one day.
Oh, I want to spend a day with you. I'd like to have breakfast with the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund and then go on for lunch with the Silicon Valley startup. It sounds like a very exciting day.
So yes, I think that's the work and play, like you say in the podcast. Yeah.
And what do you? How do you like to explore the city? Has anything in the city sort of taken your fancy? We've got this beautiful view.
Oh yes.
From this window right here.
Yes,
so.
And I am fortunate enough that I share this view from my apartment also.
Oh,
so
wonderful.
So I wake up to the serene view of the sea and the palm, and I think that's like my favorite view to wake up to. I think it's a perfect blend of nature with with architecture. So that's how I see Dubai. So you have all the architectural marvels, and then you do have natural beauty to it.
That is wonderful. I feel like more people should talk about the natural beauty of Dubai, because I fear on social media people like to talk about the glamour of Dubai a lot more than they do about the the wadis and the deserts and things like that. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Thank you.
So it sounds to me like you've had a good experience in Dubai so far. So I feel like you're the right person to be asking this question. You're qualified to give me an answer to this. Top 3 tips for someone who's wishing to make a career transition into Dubai. What would you say are the most important things to keep in mind?
Most important, and the first one would be relationship. So networking is the key. I think building the right relationships, attending industry events, learning from cross-cultural, because it's not one particular region or a culture. You interact with, I think, a plethora of different people from different cultures, and that's I think the key. The second one I would say is largely from point of view of the regional place. So I think knowing how the decision-making process is, respecting hierarchy, understanding process, being patient on lines of, driving initiatives and strategic decisions. I think that is the second important aspect that we looked at. And the third one, I think for me, is just be confident in your knowledge, look at upskilling your knowledge, and I think don't ever shy away from being direct, because Dubai definitely promotes a direct approach and being direct in your conversation. So I think, these three things I think would be the top ones for me that I would
Wonderful.
look at.
Thank you so much, Priyanka. I have learned so much. I always learn so much in conversations with you. And thank you to the viewers and listeners also for tuning in. If you have enjoyed what you heard and what you saw, definitely give us a follow and stay tuned for more on business and life in Dubai.